Welcome back to Rock Stardust. My name is Robbie. Today we're doing a second part in the Tough Guys of Rock. We've already covered off JJ Bennell from the Stranglers, which is awesome. And thanks for all of those people that subscribed and liked that video. And please do, if you haven't already, really appreciate that, and leave some comments in the comment section. Today we're looking at Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy. Just an iconic artist who really personifies this sort of tough guy in rock as well. But there's a lot to him. He was quite complex, he was tough streetwise, a hard man, reluctant Catholic, wistful, and a starry-eyed poet all in one. Born on August the 20th, 1951, raised in Leighton Road, Dublin. His parents were Philip Lynott and Cecil Paris, who was a Trinidad light heavyweight boxer. So there was a little bit in the genes there. But he was one of only 4 Indigenous black children living in Dublin at the time, when he was growing up, with a population of 600,000. So think about that. And Brian Downey recalled at school, a kid called Phil a gollywog. Phil called him out after taking quite a bit of taunting. At that point, he'd had enough and had a fight. Phil won it hands down, and that kid never messed with him again. So Daddy said, he was a big unit, 6'2". He certainly, took charge in the room when he was talking to the band and in different situations. But not someone to be messed with. He could eat you up. He knew he would. He became very proficient with his hands. He used to be a boxer, at school. Used to be at the National Stadium. So he actually spent time in the ring, and he was very much very good with his boxing. So he knew how to handle himself, So got to give him credit for that. He didn't mind a fight, but preferred a stylish fight, ideally, with that charm of his, one punch and walk away. In the early days, the substance abuse was more around, cannabis and bevy, having a few beers or a few drinks. But the heavy drinking at times did cause a few issues, and that came into play, when the early days, him and Eric Bell got into a big fight. Where the police were called in Germany in the middle of the night to try and sort that out. But he even admitted that, I'm short-tempered at the best of times, but give me whiskey and speed and I'm uncontrollable. And often liked himself to be, I'm a little bit of a roughie. But, Phil loved the excesses of fame and what it came with, the booze, the drugs, the groupies. He was a charmer and owned the room wherever he went, and was unashamedly proud to be a rock star with all its trappings. Phil was always kind and thoughtful to his fans, but on one occasion, when on stage, a kid was trying to undo his laces, which he kept trying to do, and eventually stubbed out a cigarette on his tennis shoe. Not a great idea. So Phil dropped the bass, reached down, grabbed some of his hair and pulled him up in the air. Much to his, at the end of the day, I think he was quite delighted that he got recognised as doing that in front of the crowd, but also a bit ashamed, But that was a story from Scott Gorham. And, as far as the band itself and the dynamic, they all had a real kinsmanship. But that period around, fighting through to bad reputation with the twin lineup of Scott Gorham, Brian Robertson, obviously Brian Downey on drums, that was the pinnacle for me. But him and Robbo would often butt heads. You've got this staunch, Irishman and a sort of cocky Glaswegian. So, but what led on to next was the you know, the infamous event where Robbo cut his hand. Yeah, so sadly, the guys were about to go on their US tour in 1976. Everything was packed, you know, tickets booked. You know, even the road crew were awaiting in New York City for the band. Everything and all, you know, this was going to be going from being, you know, champion European band and other parts of the world to, you know, taking off in the States big time and becoming, you know, this massive band, which they so deserve to do. But unfortunately, Brian Robertson used to go to the Speakeasy on a regular basis, like most nights apparently. And he'd take with him his little, you know, toy dog under his arm. But on this occasion, he had his bags packed, he was sitting in his room and decided, I need something to eat. So I went down to the Speakeasy for a steak. Big mistake, right? So ended up getting into a, you know, confrontation where, you know, Frankie Miller was you know, having a problem with the band that was playing at the time, and at some point it got a bit out of control. So off the side of the stage, one of the band members tried to, you know, take him with a broken glass and slash him, and Brian Robertson saw this and put his hand up to defend him because they were close. So that's what happened. And unfortunately, that was the end of the tour. And Brian had to go to hospital and there was no more playing for Thin Lizzy at that point. And Phil was absolutely infuriated. So real shame. But that's another example of some violence that took place. And it's been likened that Robbo did have a bit of a chip on his shoulder at times, and amazing guitar player, by the way, just incredible. He was so young, but he was trying to sort of live up to Phil's reputation as well of being, you know, that tough guy and womanizer and hard drinker and that sort of thing. And but you know, at the end of the day, Phil wasn't really like that. He had all those attributes, but he was such a amazing artist and a real poet and just an incredible songwriter. He had a big heart, loved his kids, loved his mum, Philomena, you know, his wife. He was a kind-hearted man at the same time, and just one of the most iconic artists of all time, and Thin Lizzy being one of the greatest bands of all time. Absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, Phil did pass away in 1986 at the age of just 36 years old, which was a real tragedy. But I just wanted to mention him in this series, you know, basically touching on the tough guys of rock, but there's so much more to him as well, and he'll be sadly missed forever. But just brilliant music. Dig into it. And hey, if you haven't already subscribed, please do, and do leave a comment or you know, like the video. It'll be great. So we'll see you next time, all right? Cheers.